Hi, I'm Renee.
And I'm Anjalice.
And we're the hosts of your podcast,
Hidden but Not Unseen. Welcome to episode 9.
Episode 9.
That's crazy. Almost at 10.
Almost, guys. We're doing this thing for real.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Yeah.
Well, you know the deal. We're going to get into our icebreaker question.
Of course we are. This week's question, this episode's question is, would you rather cook or be cooked for? Anjalice, what is your answer?
I think I would, well, I know that I would want to be cooked for.
Of course.
I don't mind cooking. Like, it could be fun sometimes. I think I prefer baking, but if it's cooking like meals, I would love to be cooked for.
Okay.
And not have to cook myself because I don't really enjoy it as much as baking.
Okay. Even though it's like the same principle and all of that.
It's not though. Not in my head.
Okay. I mean, I like doing whatever.
Well, I think like cooking, there's like a lot more freedom to like make your own type of version of a recipe.
Okay.
Whereas baking, like you usually have to stick to like the measurements and stuff. Otherwise, it'll turn out not how it's supposed to.
Yeah, baking is pretty much an exact
recipe.
Science.
Yes. So like I like exact numbers and not like, oh, you can do this or that. I'm like, can you just
dash of this,
can you just make it for me? Like, I don't want to do it.
Okay. Interesting.
What about you?
First things first, I would like to say that I like doing both, baking and cooking.
Oh, okay.
All right. So regardless of what it is, I like both. I think personally, I would rather cook because I love to experiment in the kitchen when it comes to certain things. Yeah,
Not me.
The one thing
The
you don't
opposite.
like. Yeah, the one thing you don't like doing.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's cool to experiment in the kitchen and then like also to cook new recipes. You get new flavors, and I'm big on flavors. Like,
yes.
If you take me out to a restaurant, guys, I'm probably the most indecisive person when it comes to.
True.
Yeah, I know it is. But I'm probably the most indecisive person when it does come to food, because then I look at the menu and I'm like, ooh, but this sounds good and this is good with that. And I'm like, can I just merge all of these things into one? Like, I'm someone special. Like, I could just do whatever I want. But no, yeah, I think I would rather cook. And then it's always fun to like, when you cook something and give it to someone and they're like, wow, this was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I like that feeling of people being like, wow, you can cook good. I'm like, yes, I can cook good.
I know my flavors.
Even though I don't cook as much as I used to, soon that will change after internship.
That's very real.
When I have a little bit more time on my hands. But for sure, I think I'd rather cook because I don't know if I trust everybody else's cooking.
That's true. But if I could like get like a personal chef to cook me stuff, who's like trained and like actually knows what to do, that would be great.
I guess. Yeah.
I guess.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So our topic for today is integrity.
Wow. That is a good topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
But before we do talk about it, as always, we have to put our little disclaimer there because we are not theologians. We did not go to school to study all of this stuff all the way, but we did our research, and we always say that you guys should do the same just as we do when it comes to topics like this, because we don't want you to just take our word as gospel and as the truth. We want you to understand for yourselves as well. So just know that, and let's get into it.
Yeah, so what is integrity, you may ask? Well, the definition from Google.
What's up, Google?
Yeah, we love Google.
It's our number one.
It has like a few different ones. Like, you know, it has like 1, 2, 3. Like, it lists a few options.
Yeah.
The first one says the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles.
Okay.
And moral uprightness. The second one is the state of being whole and undivided, which I like that one.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah. And then the third one is the opposite of hypocrisy.
What's hypocrisy?
I was like, I don't know how to define that. And like,
we don't have to define
hypocrisy
it. Hypocrisy
is not saying what you.
Yeah, those are all
not
good.
doing what you say. Anyways.
Right. Those are all good definitions. I really do like the second one a lot too.
Me too.
Because like, you know,
the state of being whole and undivided.
Undivided, like complete.
Yeah.
Lacking in nothing.
Ooh, you got some scripture.
Anyways, alongside of that, there is a definition, or kind of, that I read. There's a website, as we were looking and researching for this topic, there's a website that I went to, and it has this definition by it says the Random House Dictionary. So I don't know what that means, but it defines it. It has like the same thing. It has about 3 different definitions, and the first one is adherence to moral and ethical principles, right? Soundness of moral character, honesty, cool, entire or undiminished. So kind
Similar,
of kind of the same thing, you know. And then the last one is a sound, unimpaired, or perfect condition. And then it has this whole little other thing where it's talking about the last couple definitions.
Yeah.
And it says that more than likely these are meant for structures, because, you know, when you think about integrity, you can also think about the structural integrity of a building or something like that. And it's saying that we can apply those same things to us, because we have to have a solid foundation, a firm foundation. We have to be integrous so that things can be built on top of us and stuff like that. So it was just really cool to see that, you know, as you do read some of these definitions and think about integrity, you can think about it structurally, but for us being Christians, especially as being Christians, it can mean the same thing. Like, we have to be solid, undivided, before anything else can be placed on top of us.
Right. And integrity is like a characteristic that many of us value, like in ourselves and in others. And it's something that we look for in like friendships and leaders.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we always want someone who is trustworthy, who, you know, is true to their word and all this stuff. So it's something that's like we search without even realizing.
Yeah, because I mean, we're people. Like, we think that we're honest people, so we want somebody to do the same for us. I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all don't go to look for friends and you're looking for backstabbers.
No.
Like, you want somebody who like
not.
Or somebody who's lazy and doesn't do what they say. Like, you obviously want somebody to do as they say.
Right.
Because then, like you said, you can trust them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is it important to have integrity? Well, it goes along with like what we just talked about, how like we want people to be dependable and to be trustworthy, and we want ourselves to be dependable towards other people and be trustworthy.
That's good.
Here's an example of like how important I think integrity is. I film videos for my church, so me and a few interns went to the UCF campus to film this video. It's called Man on the Street. Basically, it's like a type of video where you kind of like interact with people on the street. Yeah. Man on the Street. Makes sense with the title.
Right.
So basically, we're doing like this interview about trust, and the host, which was one of the interns, she was just asking questions about like, oh, do you trust people like at all? And most of them said no, like they don't.
Right, because they don't know you.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next question was like, oh, what does it take for you to trust someone? Okay. And so they always like say, oh, they have to be reliable, they have to be dependable, they have to show me, like prove to me that I can trust them with the actions that they do. So I think people like who aren't even necessarily trying to have integrity, or like they don't seek that on a normal basis, like they still want someone who's trustworthy, who they can depend on. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think for me, when I look at like the importance of having integrity, I always think like, okay, if I'm to be like someone who is integrous and I want somebody else that I'm around to also be integrous, like it's for me to show and be an example for the people around us. Right. And so like I have to be, if I want that person to trust me, I have to be trustworthy. Yeah. If I want that person to be timely, I have to be timely. If I want this person to do whatever it is, I also have to be that thing. And so like when I think about, you know, the importance of integrity, especially in any type of environment, like in order for it to be reciprocated in a sense, like I have to be that person that like is the model for someone. Yeah. And so like even when it comes to my leadership, the thing that I go by as of, you know, just thinking about what I want to do is like I have to be the example. I have to be the leader that I want other people to be and beyond me. Right. So how do I exemplify that? Oh, well, I have to be the one.
Yeah.
And so there's a verse in Titus 2, verse 7-8, that kind of talks about the same thing, about like being a model for others. And also, I mean, it talks about, I'll just read it and then I'll talk about this point. Okay. But it says, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like this example or whatever, it's just really important that, you know, your life is the example, so that if there is something that comes up against you, like nobody's gonna question the fact that you did it or not, because your life already shows that you're good.
You're good,
and not evil.
Real.
So like, it's important that that's reflected everywhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, that's good.
So when it comes to that, kind of like tying into our next point that we want to bring up is like, what does it look like to live an integrous life?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Also, that article that I read, that I said I read before or whatever, I still read it. It says something like this. It says, you can say that integrity is always doing something right, mm-hmm. even when no one is looking, and even when the choice isn't easy. Or you may see integrity as staying true to yourself and your word, even when you're faced with serious consequences for the choices that you're making. So kind of tying into that verse again, like, you know, integrity is living life correctly, even if people are just like, nah.
Yeah.
You're like, no, but I know I'm right, or whatever. And the choice can be difficult. It can be like, okay, I know this thing isn't bad for me, but I'm gonna choose to not do this thing, mm-hmm. because does it really benefit me or reflect the life that I'm trying to live?
Right.
And so like, in all things, man, do things right. That's what like integrous life looks like. If you can exemplify the right living.
Right. It just reminds me of like how we have to live in the world, but we can't be part of it.
Right. Not of this world. Come on. Intern retreat 2021.
I was like, that was it.
Yeah. Sorry. That was our theme for intern retreat, is like not of this world. Like, we're not of the world, but we're in it.
Yes.
And how do we live in this world? Like, we're the light, we're the example. And so then how do we portray that? By literally being the thing that we're supposed to be in such a dark world. Yeah. So that people can see that like, your standards are different, but like you also live a good life. Yes. Like, so how do I live that?
Right.
You know?
That's good. So what does it look like to be integrous? I think is to be honest. Mm-hmm. Which I think it's like the most basic one, I guess, because to be trustworthy, you have to be honest.
It's kind of like the start, like
like the first step.
Yeah,
be honest.
For real.
Yeah, and I think it starts small, like, you know, on the opposite side of being dishonest, like someone who's like a thief or who's considered like a criminal, like they obviously didn't start there. Like it started small, like it started from like them stealing like one thing, and then they're like, oh, I can get away with this, let me do more. So that goes with a lot, like with everything. Like in friendships, like some people might be lying about certain things of their life, and they're like, oh, I can get away with this, let me keep doing it, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And like in Luke 16:10, it says, one who is faithful in the little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in little is also dishonest in much. Yeah,
you don't want to have like inconsistencies with your life, like at all. And so if you're like, okay, for 95% of the time I'm telling the truth, or for 95% of the time I'm honest, but that 5%, whatever, it just says like, yo, whatever you do in a little bit, it's also gonna be done more than that,
right?
So
I think that's very important, to like be mindful of the things that you aren't honest about, or you know, like the little things that you think aren't a big deal, like they will be a big deal if you keep doing it and you don't catch it when it's like small. That's one thing like we talk about just in church in general, even about like sin and issues like that, or whatever, even like open doors, closed doors, mainly pertaining to sin, but like whatever you let in a little bit, maybe you do have a slip up or whatever it is, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna do it again. But if you don't go to the altar, lay it down, be like, God, whatever, let me like put the guards around or whatever, you're gonna fall right back into it. And then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, where then your life looks like
completely different than where you started.
Yeah. And you won't even realize it until you're like, already there, and you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, because you're like, it all started really, really small, but now I look different.
That's how, like, that also reminds me of, like, like, those pastors that, like, are in affairs or whatever. Like, obviously, like, they didn't just jump into that affair, like, overnight. Like, it started with something small, and it, like, escalated throughout, days, years? Like, I don't know, but...
It kind of goes with another point that we're going to bring out, but like, they just haven't put the right boundaries on that thing. So like something comes up, and instead of like confessing it and like, dealing with it when it's that small little thing, whether it's like, I mean, an affair is kind of a big thing. So where does that start? It can literally start with porn. It can start with
lustful thoughts. That's like one lustful thought about someone else that's not your wife.
And then it continues into like so many other things. And it could be like that slip up or that thought or whatever. And instead of like having the appropriate guards around it and bounds around it, you let it continue to happen. And it always says that sin creeps in, or these things can creep in. Like lies can creep in, pride can creep in. All of these things could just be like, oh, it's only a little bit. Like, I'm fine. It's only a little bit.
Not fine.
But then it turns into such a bigger issue. You have scandals with money. You have scandals with drugs. You have scandals with alcohol. You have scandals with sex. All these things. Everything. Because literally nothing is off of balance. And if you aren't continually asking God to reveal those things to you, or continually laying those down at the altar, then it becomes a habit over time. That's not good. And then you just fall.
Yeah, integrity is continual. Like, you never stop being integrous.
At all. You got to keep it up, guys.
All right, the next one. It's enough of our TED Talk. The next one is to be responsible. Yeah. It kind of goes along with honesty. Just be responsible with your life. Like, what you say yes and no to. In Matthew 5:37, it says, let what you say be simply yes or no, and anything more than this comes from evil. Yeah. So I think basically, like, don't live in like a gray area. Yeah. And like say yes and mean it, or say no and mean it.
Right. And we always talk about it when it comes to like being lukewarm. Yeah. Like you're teeter-tottering on a line of like the maybe. And it's like you're either all in or you're all out.
Yeah, it could be like literally like the simplest. I'm trying to think of an example. The only one that I can think about right now, because I mentioned it earlier before recording, it was just like, should we drink alcohol? Oh, like that thing. Yeah. And that's like it's such a like gray area for people. They're like, oh, I could be a Christian and drink. Other people are like, no, I can't drink.
Yeah. And it's because like the Bible, they're always like, but the Bible doesn't say like you can't have a drink. It just tells you not to be drunk.
Right. And they're like, they drink wine.
Right.
Like, I can drink wine.
Yeah. And then it all comes to, a lot of people always say that, well, that's a personal conviction and that's a personal thing. But if you know, like, if that's going to be a problem or can lead to problems down the line, like the answer should just be a clear no. Right. And we're not saying that like anybody who drinks and they're a Christian is not a Christian. Right. Like we aren't saying that by any means. No. But
it's just a standard that people put so that they don't cross a line later. Yeah. Similar to like the thing I said before, like not to be open to like the small things, and then it gets bigger and bigger. Yeah, because you don't ever want that to be a problem in your life ever again. No. You know, so especially if you struggle with alcoholism, like that should be a no directly. Yeah. Like, no, absolutely not. I will not take a sip of alcohol.
Yeah, for sure. The next thing to like live an integrous life that we think is very important, and how to live it, is like being accountable. Yeah. Not just having accountability for yourself, but also, can you be somebody that I can count on? Yeah, that's true. Like, if you say you're going to do this thing, do it. It goes with the yes is yes and no is no.
They go hand in hand.
Don't say like, I'm going to do it, and then time gets by and it's the last minute and you fail at it. Pastor Sonia always says this thing. She's like, what's better, for me to get the Mona Lisa the day after I asked for it, or to get a stick figure the day that I need it? And it's better to do the thing that you already said yet, because they are accountable because they did it, and that person will always be relied on because they can meet the deadline, instead of somebody who thinks that it's chill, whatever, I have so much time, da 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 da, and then you realize like, you don't, and then you submit it the day after, and you never know what it's for.
Yeah.
And so after, like, it's better to just get it done and be accountable so that you can be used more in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you always want to be somebody who could be relied on and accountable. And that's, like we're talking about this whole integrity thing. That's really a lot of these things. That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah. And if you know that you struggle in an area, like, you should have someone else to help you.
Yes.
Like, don't rely on your own strength to get through something. Like, you should get accountability, and it helps you be more integrous.
Yes, it does. The next thing is what I like to say, walk it like you talk it. It kind of ties back into the first, well, not the first point, but one of the points that I brought up was like, how are you being the example? Like, if you are the one walking things out in integrity, like, I am going to be honest, I am going to be trustworthy, I am going to be accountable, and you're not going to find these sin issues or whatever it is. Like, if it's pride, you're not going to find it, because I'm walking out the life that I want to live. I'm walking out the example that Jesus left.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want ultimately for other people to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm not doing it, who am I causing to stumble?
Right.
And you don't want to cause anybody to stumble. Like, you want to be like solid, so the people coming up after you
are solid
too. So, like, walk things out in the way that is supposed to be done, and not have the gray areas in your life, so that in the end, I went to this conference, and this lady was talking about how, like, if you deal with your issues now and then walk it out, by the time you get promoted to that position, it's not going to be a problem for you, because you've already did all of the hard work, the dirty work, whatever, trying to work that thing out of your life, and so that you are somebody who can be depended on, and all that type of stuff. 1 Peter 3:16, it says, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. So it's the same thing. Like, when people accuse you, because it will happen, people will walk up on you and be like, yo, like, I heard this, that, and the other about you. Like, that's true. Like, you're like, no, I'm good. I've walked with Christ. I have the right accountability. Like, I have the right boundaries and stuff like that. And my good behavior shows that. Like, when you come and try to attack me, you will see that my life is clean. Yeah. And so then what?
You don't have proof. Yeah. You don't have anything.
And you get put to shame. It's just like, oh, my bad. Like, don't try me.
Basically.
Yeah.
So how do you keep your integrity?
Well, integrity, you mentioned it a little bit earlier in the episode, but integrity is something that you don't just have at one point and you're like, okay, cool, I reached that point of integrity, that's it. Like, no, you have to continue to walk out your integrity, continue to make the choice to live a life and to live the example that Christ wants us to live, and that we want to be, not just for us, but for other people. Like, you have to do that every single day of your life. You wake up, you're like, I'm going to choose integrity today. You're not going to be like, I wake up and today I'm not going to choose integrity because I really just want to do whatever the heck I want. It's like, no, I don't want to, because I want to draw closer to God. Yeah. And so because of that, you just want to continue to make the decision of integrity, so that, like, sin is never an issue. And like all these other verses that we said, like, when people come against us, when these words come against us, they have no right, because it's not true. So that's one thing before we get into how to really keep your integrity.
Yeah. So I think the first thing you should do is put boundaries up. Oh, yeah. And I think you mentioned this earlier too, about boundaries.
Maybe I did.
They're very important. They're very important, especially if you want to have your integrity. There's many different types of boundaries. There's physical, mental, and emotional. Yeah. And like, I feel like most people just think of like physical boundaries. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna
cross this line. Yeah. And like be with this person. Yeah. Or something like that.
But there's like mental and emotional too. Yeah. And those can lead you to not be integrous.
Yeah.
So I think you should say no to the things that make you lose your integrity, like things that you know that like can lead you off the path. Like an example for me, like my thoughts wander, and so like I have to put boundaries on those, and not like, and if I'm like, I start thinking about a specific thing, whether that be like, this is like stupid, but like it's real, like a potential relationship, and I'm like thinking about it too much, I'm like, wait, no, like, because then I'm gonna want to text them or like do something like
stupid,
dumb.
It can lead to other things.
And it's not like super crazy, like just having the thought, but like knowing when to shut it down in your mind, like it helps you like create that boundary and be like, no, like this is not a thing, like God doesn't want this for me, like it's fine, and then move on.
I think boundaries are like really good safeguards.
Oh yeah.
To like a whole bunch of different things, like, and you know, there, as we're talking about this, a lot of it we're like, oh, like these are negative things, but it, like we're putting a boundary because like I know this can lead me to sin or whatever, but like it could not be something that's terrible for you, and you still have to put a boundary on it, because it's like, okay, for instance, I love ice cream. Ice cream is my favorite thing in the whole wide world. If you take me to Kelly's, I'm in love with you. Like it is what it is. Cookie Monsters from Kelly's, hit me up. But if I didn't have a boundary to say, okay, this is enough, then I could continue to overeat and have problems.
A whole pint.
Okay, that's not enough. I'm talking like
a gallon.
Yeah, so if you give me like a gallon. But also when it comes to a pint, I don't eat the whole pint in one sitting.
Yeah, no.
I'll eat as much as I'm like, I'm like, okay, this is good, and then I save the rest for later. Yeah. But like if I didn't have that boundary or that guard to know like, okay, maybe you shouldn't eat the whole tin, I could eat that and overeat. And if that was the case, boy, I'd probably be like 700 pounds right now, because I wouldn't care. I wouldn't want to stop.
Right.
And that's kind of like what these things are for. Like boundaries are to help us say like, no, because you know where this can lead to.
Yes.
So how about let's stop it before it even gets to a point that's even remotely close to that.
And also for like the emotional part of boundaries and like your feelings, like sometimes owned by feelings like anger, for example, and like you can be in an altercation with someone and then want to go off on them because it's something you're feeling, obviously, and you haven't processed it, you haven't, you know, broken it down and understood it in a way to talk to them like civil, that you'd want to like just pop off, which happens a lot to people.
You?
No.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
I'm just asking a question.
Think so.
I'm just asking a question.
I don't think so, but, you know, just like knowing like, okay, yes, I feel all these emotions and I feel angry at the situation and this is stupid. Like, you can say all these things in your head, but like knowing, like, no, like, I'm actually not gonna like talk to you right now. I'm gonna go to myself, go to God, process, and then come back, is a good boundary to have to keep your integrity. Because if you just popped off, especially in like in your, let's say you're like a leader, like,
oh yes, sir,
like that could like cause, you know, consequences.
Yeah, but you also never know who's watching you.
Right, exactly. And then now you have allowed that person to be like, oh, I can do that now.
Yeah, and like boundaries is also a way to respect yourself.
Yes.
Like, if you value yourself by any means, put some boundaries up, because people will love to push your boundaries. People will love to like walk over you and say like, oh, well, you gave me a little bit this time, so I can ask for more and I can go more and run you over. I'm learning this for myself a lot, how to just vocalize like, hey, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
When you say this isn't okay. When you do this isn't okay. Because I would see myself getting pushed over and mulled over all the time and kind of just being like, well, it's fine. Like, it's all right. Like, whatever. I'm over it now. Da-da-da-da-da. But like, no, I respect myself. And if that's the case, if I'm like, hey, don't say these words to me, or hey, don't have that conversation around me, or hey, whatever, it's because I'm respecting myself and protecting myself from certain things, because maybe if you have this conversation, though it may not seem bad to you, you never know what it means for me. And for me, it could mean a whole lot worse. And it could lead me down a path that I'm trying so hard to avoid. Yeah. Or whatever.
It's true. You never know what people are fighting against.
Right. And there's an incident. I'm going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
There's an incident that happened not that long ago. And these people, they were like they were trying to joke around and have fun or whatever. And like, that's fine. I'll have fun. Mm-hmm. But like, you pushed it way too far and you thought it was okay. Mm-hmm. And so then these people like are just going at it, whatever. And I'm just trying to have a conversation. Like, I'm asking for help, asking what they're doing so that like as a team, we could get something done. Mm-hmm. Even though they didn't work with my ministry, we were both in the same location. Mm-hmm. And why would I don't know, we could just both do the same thing. I help you, you help me. Cool. Yeah. These people were making like jokes and they're like, oh, it sounds like your personal thing. Like, it's not cool, whatever. And they were pushing this boundary too far. I just had to like move something up in the second floor garage. So I needed the forklift and they needed the forklift to get something down. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, well, why don't I lift this up and then I'll help you lift this thing down and I'll come up, we can all put it up together and like, it is what it is. They pushed it too far and I was like, nope, I don't care anymore, whatever. And I walked away and they're like, whoa. But like, I'm just like, I respect myself and I'm just trying to have a civil conversation with you so that we can get things done. But obviously you take it as a joke. So I'm not going to stay and keep myself in this situation. I'm going to remove myself before anger comes and I say something wrong or before whatever happens. Cause like, I might swing at you. Like, you might get popped off in the mouth. Yeah. You know what I mean? But after the fact, the person came and apologized and was like, yo, I'm sorry. Like, it's too much. I did too much and you were mad and whatever. So I'm like, I'm grateful that you see that these things will not cut it around me. Yeah. So boundaries are for me to be like, I respect myself. So like, if you come around this way, like, it's a no-go, bro. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. Another way to keep your integrity, which we've all been... all as in the two of us, all 75 of us in this room right now, all two of us have been talking about is like accountability. Like, it's good to have accountability set up around you. Yeah. Whether it be, I mean, it kind of is the same thing, but like if you have an app for accountability, because you know, like, oh, late at night, sometimes I might text this girl or sometimes I might text this boy, or like I might go on this website or I might do this or whatever, or look at this social media page or this video that I know I'm not supposed to look at. You have somebody in place on that app that is your accountability to kind of just be like, no, I caught you red-handed, bro. What's going on? Like, they will call you out straight up because it monitors everything. So like having that type of accountability, but also like people around you that will call you out on your crap and be like, hey, I know you and this is not you. Yeah. So what you need to do is this. Like, it's good to have those people and those things in place so that when it comes to just how you live your life and how you're being an example to others, like, there is no fault and there is no gray area or no bumpy roads like with you. Yeah. And also, which it kind of ties in with the accountability thing, I think it's really important to have mentors or people that are above you in leadership or above you in your Christian walk that can look at your life and be like, hey, I remember when I was there, like, let's talk about this and like, let's figure things out or whatever. Because you can get a lot of wisdom from them and how to even process things, like emotions. Like, if I'm angry and I don't want to pop off at somebody, like, how do I go through this? Or like, hey, I have this issue and I really want to get better. Like, what do I do? Like, these people are in place to help you and grow you so that you can be the person that walks everything out properly.
Right. And also, like, I think even if you didn't have a mentor, like specifically like a mentor, like, you could still have people above you to look up to and be like, oh, this is how they live their life. Like, I want that. And then like just seek after those things. Yeah. Just having someone who is like more integrous than you in your season, like, it'll help you become better.
Yeah. It just goes off the whole point of like, you're an example or whatever. Yeah. And so then like, who do you look to? You look to other people that are examples for your life to live out the life that you want to live. So yeah, it's definitely important to have people around you that you surround yourself with that are better than you in a sense of like their boundaries and things like that, so that you can learn off of that, so then you can become just like them. I mean, we have some pretty great people at our church that exemplify integrity. So like, if it's not a 10, it's a 0. And, you know, they definitely represent a 10. Yes. Because if they say something, their life literally lines up to that thing. Yeah. Like, they're like, okay, well, I pray. And then you see them and you're like, they really do pray like all the time. Yeah. Or like, hey, I don't watch these shows. Like, you'll see them when somebody talks about this thing that they'll remove themselves from that situation because
they don't know what that show is.
Right. Or they don't want to hear what that show is because they're like, I value myself so much and respect myself so much that I don't want to taint what I have here. Yeah. And I don't want it to affect me because maybe that is my past, or maybe this can lead me to go down some type of whatever, that I'm just going to remove myself from the situation so that like I'm good. Yeah. What? That's how I'm trying to be. I'm trying to get there. Ah, man.
And if like you don't have great leaders in your life currently, because like obviously we go to like a big church that has amazing, like so many amazing leaders,
or even if you're like looking for one and you haven't found one yet,
right? Yes. Like I think it's so important to look to Jesus, look in the Bible. Like he lived the most integrous life out of all of us.
Yes, he did.
He lived the perfect life, the sinless life. So just don't be discouraged if you don't see anyone in your personal life that sounds really bad, but like that's like, you know, you don't,
it's true though,
there's no one that you see that's like above your current standard, whatever. Yeah. The Bible will always have an answer for you.
Yeah. And like, you know, kind of what I've said a little bit throughout this whole thing, like I'm walking and trying to live a life like Jesus walked. Yeah. So even if there are people around you, maybe like you are a brand new Christian and you still have some of the same friend group and they don't believe in some of the same things you do, as you're looking to become more like Jesus, the perfect example to look at is Jesus. Yes. And it is to read your Bible and to see how he lived his life. And so that character, you know, begins to be built in you, and then you'll find people that honor the same thing or that are looking for the same thing. So yeah, for sure. You know, don't be discouraged when it comes to, well, there's nobody around me at this current moment that looks like the thing I want to become. Why don't you just become the thing that you're trying to be first?
Ooh, be set apart.
Ooh, hello, word of the year. Yes. But yeah, like look at Jesus as the example and try to be what he exemplifies. So just draw near to him, and then he'll help you through all of that type of stuff. For sure. And I think, as we get ready to conclude this episode, a verse that kind of just shows you all about integrity. It comes from Proverbs, which is a great book to read because they have a lot of like...
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Proverbs.
Yeah. It's a good word.
Yeah. When I read it, you'll know what I mean by proverb. But Proverbs 4:25-27, it says, "Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil." So if you don't want to be evil, or if you don't want evilness to be a part of your life, like what do? Like you focus on where you're trying to go. You focus on Jesus. You focus on looking forward and like question, okay, I have this thing right in front of me. Now, do I want to follow it? Or like, do I want to go down this path or do I not? Because if I go down this path, what are the consequences? Right. None, because it's good. Okay, then I'll go. Oh, there's a lot of consequences because this will lead to that. It will lead to that. Will lead to that. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to do it. So like always think about the decisions that you're making. And if you want to live the example that you're trying to become, always question what you're doing and have integrity.
Yes.
So we've made it to takeaways.
We have.
Yes, we have. Angelise, do you have any takeaways from this episode? Of course. All right, let's hear them.
Yes. Well, I think it's super important to have boundaries in your life. I think before I like got saved and stuff, I never really thought about life farther than like the current moment, if that makes sense. So I just lived day by day like as it is. But I think like making sure you have boundaries will help you look into the future and be like, no, like this is where I want to go and like this is where I don't want to go. So I obviously need to make boundaries to like guard my way against these areas of life. And then I want like the fruit, and I want to be, you know, blessed and live this life of integrity. And so I think having the correct boundaries and being aware of your boundaries and like creating them constantly, because obviously you, like as you grow in God, like you get more like what's the word, as you get closer in God, you get more convictions, I guess. Okay. And so you develop more and more boundaries, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think just to kind of like go off of what you are saying, like boundaries draw you closer and closer to what God's desires for your life are. Yes. Too. Because I know for me, one of the desires that I know that God has for me, and that like I have for myself as well, is like, I want to be whole and complete and pure for my family and for my future generations. Like, I don't want to live a life continued in sin or live a life where that's always a problem. Yeah. Because one, God doesn't promise that for me. And so then two, like, how do I do that? Well, I do have to put up boundaries with what I watch, what I listen to, what I just take in and consume. Because if not, if I let that just be a gateway or like a little slip or a little small thing, it could lead me to a life that isn't what God wants me for. Yeah. So boundaries help you line yourself up with what God really wants for your life as a person. Yeah. In general. For me, I think a takeaway would just be that like, if you really want to have an integrous life, or what an integrous life really looks like, it does look like walking it out as you speak these things. Like, if you know you want to be this person who, for me, like the example, pure, if I want to do that, like, how do I live that out? Well, I have to walk out the things that I say. So I'm not going to watch the show. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to remove myself from conversations that surround itself with impurity. Yeah. So that my life can reflect purity. Yeah. Things like that. Good.
That's real.
Guys.
Yeah.
Do you know what time it is?
No, what time is it?
It's hammer time. I don't know. Pretty close. No, it's Spotify song of the episode time. Hey. And this week we have a banger song for you guys. It's called Better by Tribal. And it just is, I don't know, it's a song that I've been in love with for a while. It's really, really good. Just saying that God's ways are better. Yeah. And they are always better. And they keep getting better. And That's things good. Like that. So, take a listen to it. I hope it really just touches your life as much as it's touched mine. And yeah.
We release episodes on the 1st and 3rd Friday of every month, except for this month because it's a little weird. Yeah. But it's okay. We'll be back next month.
Yes, we will. Like on schedule, guys.
Yes, on schedule. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at hidden_but_not_unseen, because we will be posting updates there.
So I hope you enjoy our banter as we go on this journey through life together.